Welcome back. In this session, we are going to write our first Docker file. Well, we are not going to write our first Docker file. That we will do in the next session. But in this session, I'm going to explain you how to write your first Docker file. What are different steps? What are different part of the Docker file? And where to put your Docker file to build your image. And one thing do remember, as a DevOps engineer or as a cloud engineer, if you are working with the container, then you have one and only one job, to write a Docker file. Yes, so application developer, they are going to give you their application along with application running script or maybe application installation script. Then as a DevOps engineer or cloud engineer, you need to understand their application installation and configuration script and steps, and based out of that you have to write the Docker file. So using this Docker file, you can create image, then you can run a container. So writing a Docker file is your responsibility. So now you understand how important this is for you to understand writing a Docker file. So let's get started. So what is Docker file? We already understood Docker file is a blueprint to build a Docker image, and using this Docker image we create our container. So what is Docker file? So Docker file is just a text file. Yes, this is just a text file which contains step-by-step instruction of building Docker image. So in this Docker file, we will have step-by-step to build a Docker image. And is this Docker image is all about the application, right? Application installation, application configuration, running the application. So all those steps we are going to add here. Now each instruction, so when we are writing this Docker file, so each instruction tells Docker what to do when setting up a containerized environment. So when you have the application, and this application when you're going to run as a container, so this steps tells instruction tells what to do when when this is Docker is building this container environment. Now question comes, why do we really need the Docker file? Of course, for the automation. So we don't want to write again set up the command all the time, right? So we want to get rid of it. Because of that, we want the automation. So instead of manually setting up the environment, Dockerfile automate the process. You will see in a moment. So once you see all the steps how we are putting in the Docker file, then you will understand how it's going to automate everything. Now next important point is consistency, right? So let's say if you have to run a container in multiple environment, so we want consistency, right? So once you write this Docker file, this container specification, and build the image, and this image will run on any environment, any machine, right? So we are creating this Docker file for consistency. Next is portability, and this is one of the important feature of Docker, right? We understood Docker is isolated, lightweight, and portable, right? So portable is one of the important feature of the Docker. So this Docker file make Docker container portable. How? So Docker image built from the Docker file, right? And once we build this image, then this can run on any machine, any environment, any system which has Docker installed, right? So this image, this Docker file make this portable. Next is reproducibility. Of course, so once we have this image, then we can run on multiple environment. Now let's imagine you have a application, Node.js application, and for this application you have to build a Docker file. So how you do that? So first things first, let's say if this is your application, my application, and this application has two files, server.js and package.json, then the Docker file you will be creating inside your application. Yes, so this will go along with your application. That's always make sure. So your Docker file will be with your application. We always put a Docker file with our application for which we are going to create this Docker file. So this is first things you have to always keep in mind. So let's assume you have created this Docker file in this my app application. Now question is, if you need to run this application has two files, what you will do? Okay, so one things we know, this is Node.js application, right? And to run this application we have the dependencies, and these dependencies are in package.json. So if you don't know Node.js, so when we create the Node.js application, then this application depends on some libraries. So those libraries we put in package.json. I will show you in the next session when we will create a Docker file for a real Node.js application. Okay, then server.js is the application of the Node.js that exactly going to run. Okay, so one things we understood, so to run this application we need the Node.js, and we have the all software dependencies in package.json, right? And in server.js we have the code to run the application. So how do we write this? Now let's understand this. Now to run this Docker file, let me make it a little smaller so all fits on the screen. Yes, so here this is a Docker file to running this above application. Okay, let's understand this one by one, and as I said, please put a special attention because this is what you will be doing all the time as DevOps or cloud engineer. So as we know, this is Node.js application, so it need the base image, right? It need to be run on the Node.js server, right? So for that we need a base image. So what here we are using? We are using Node.js as a base image. On that image we are going to run our application, right? If this could be the Python application, then maybe we will use Python base image, right? If this is Java application, so maybe we need Java base image, or maybe Golang, we need Golang base image. So now question may become in your mind, how do you know that? Of course, you can go in a Docker Hub and try to find the base image for Golang, base image for Java, where Java installation is there and everything pre-installed built on that image. So here we are, for our Node.js application, we are using Node 18 as a base image. So when we are using this Node 18 base image, then this image will already have Node.js installed. Means we no need to do extra steps to install Node.js. We know to run this application, this is Node.js application, so Node.js is required, correct? So to do not install Node.js, right, we are using Node.js node base image. Now understand, can we use Ubuntu here? Of course, you can go ahead and use the Ubuntu base image, but then you need to install, you need to write steps to install Node.js, right? So this is what we were trying to get rid of. Okay, so because of that we are using Node base image. Well, now once we get the Node base image, it means all set, our application will run out of box, correct? Now next step is to, we have to make sure from where our application will run, right? Because we are going to get application code and put in our container, right? So for that we are creating a work directory. Okay. Okay, before one things, so what you see here from, so from work directory, copy, run, okay, expose, cmd, so these are a specific command we need to use in our docker file. So that is something you has to remember. Okay, so these are the instruction. Okay, so from instruction basically get the base image. Okay, work dir instruction basically set the working directory. Okay, so if you need to use the base image, then you should use from. Okay, so that understood. Now, okay, so we are using workdir to set the working directory inside the container. So we are saying, so our working directory inside the container, when application will run, it will be /app. Then okay, our container will have this node environment, right? Node installed. Then we set the directory. Then in this directory we need to copy our application, right? And application code. So here we are using copy instruction to copy package.json and install dependencies. So we know in package.json we have all dependencies. So this part we are copying. Copy package JSON from where to where to in the current directory. So what we see here, here we set working directory /app means now our container is in this /app, right? Dot. So from current directory here, so this is my app, right? Here we are running this docker file. So docker file is where? This docker file, please understand, so this docker file, when we are creating this docker file, where this is present, this present in my app, right? So in my app this docker file is there. So in reference of the docker file we are copying package.json, right? Where we already set working directory /app, right? So package.json we are copying in the app/app. Then we are running npm install. So run is again instruction. We are running npm install to install the dependencies. So what npm will do, it will go and look into package.json. This is currently present where? In /app. Then it's going to install all the dependencies. After that we are copying rest of the application. How do we copy? We already understood using copy instruction, copy command, right? So you're saying copy everything from the current directory. Okay, what is current directory here? Current directory is here app, my app, right? Because here we have docker.file, right? So everything is going to copy these three files, all file where? In the /app. Okay, then here next is expose application port. Well, this is very important. So now we are going to run the application, right? So application need to be running on certain port, so that port need to be exposed. So here we are exposing, again, to expose the port, to allow container run on certain port we need to expose it. So we are saying expose port 3000 for the application. So this is port of container inside application. Please do remember. So this is port of application port. That's where our application run inside the container. Now next is start the node.js application. So all done, right? So we have the node environment, working directory, we install all dependencies, we copied all application file, then we also know where application is going to run. And what is the last is we need to start our application, right? So for that we're using cmd command line. Okay, use cmd to start the application. How? As this is node application, so node pass node, and then along with the node, after node pass the server.js to start the application. So once we will go ahead and build the image from this Docker file, and run the container, then container going to start our application using node and server.js. Okay, and then application will run on port 3000. Well, so here again I have explained all this line by line. Okay, so I'm going to again attach this document in this lecture. Please go ahead and read it, understand it. If needed, watch this video couple of times, as this is very important. Okay, so here we understood each and every line for running this Node.js application. So in next session, I'm going to literally create similar application, same application. Again, we will build the Docker file. Then we are going to build the image. Then we are going to run the container. So that's pretty much I wanted to cover here, and I wanted to make sure you literally understand each and every lines of this Docker file. Thank you so much. See you in the next session, where we are going to do guided lab on creating Docker file for Node application. Then we'll build the image, then run the container. Thank you.